Today is Monday. Happy Monday. Monday, December 11th. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Ghost. To my left is usually George, but he has not arrived yet. To his left, if he were here, would be our greatest mixed martial art analyst on all of MMA Junkie Radio, Dan Tom.
That's like the grandchild that's, you're the lone grandchild, and the grandparents go, "You're our favorite grandchild."
You are. And back east, we have a guy who, thankfully, is alive because he went through some stuff this morning. That is Danny Okers, the greatest producer in the world.
I still need to be filled in on said stuff.
Yeah, Danny, why don't you fill us in a little bit? You're probably gonna.
Don't pay attention to the news.
I didn't know either.
The news when Vegas stuff happens, Dan.
well.
No, there was a bombing at Port Authority today.
Holy what?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a huge. I hate to say it this way. It wasn't like a huge one or anything.
Jesus.
Can't
believe I said it that way.
Some guy with I don't know if they know for sure if it was like a pipe bomb or if it was just like some being exploded. But he tried to get a bunch of people. I don't even think he ended up killing himself. I think he's still alive and in custody. And he injured a couple of people, I think, as of now. That's what they're saying. But I went through Port Authority afterwards, and it was like I don't really even know. It was like almost like a movie. There was just tons of like army guys with like tons of bulletproof vests and big guns, and there was like a bunch of SWAT guys with like ballistic armor on and big machine guns and everything. And they were kind of just. They had all these barriers up. Like, we weren't allowed to go out of the normal entrances. They had all these barriers up, and they just kind of kept, like, just shuffling people through. Like, you gotta go this way. Nope. Gotta go this way. Nope. And then we just had to, like, go maze through Port Authority to get out to a different street. We had to go out on 9th.
That sounds real, man.
Yeah, it was weird. And I didn't even know anything about it. Before I left my house. It happened before I left today, because normally I work in the morning, and I guess luckily I didn't work the morning, but I would have been in and out before anyway, but I got a bunch of texts and a bunch of phone calls from people going, "Are you okay? Did you get through Port Authority?" Which I do anytime anything happens in New York. Mm-hmm. And my dad, actually, I didn't answer. I guess I was still asleep. I didn't answer quick enough, and my dad he started calling me. He goes, "Where are you? Are you okay? Where are you?" And before, like, you just kept asking before I could even get like answers out. I was like, "I am in my house right now."
Where's the trigger? Where is it?
Pretty much, we're coming up in 30 seconds.
Right.
Pretty much, he was just like, "Where are you?" I'm home, but I have to go into work soon.
Damn.
So.
Well, thankfully everything's okay.
Yeah, it got real for a second, but I mean, it was. The only bad part was it was nerve-wracking going in because you never knew what was actually going to happen or what was going to look like. So
my biggest fear is when people stop being polite and start getting real.
All right, we're coming up.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Ghost. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. Daily, bitches. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, RA's co-host.
Yeah,
to my right. You gonna take that jacket off? Well, it looks like that's what you're gonna do.
I was pulling down my shirt. My butt crack was showing.
All right. Goes the plumber, we'll call him for today. Dan Tom, our latest addition. To my left, he's the fight analyst. And, of course, back east, Danny Otto, our producer. What's up, fellas? How was your weekend?
Good, good.
It was fun. But I have a question for you. You walked in on the pre-show. Based on what we were talking about, do you have any idea what we were saying?
Shit almost got real for Danny.
Yeah, do you know why?
No.
So I didn't know this either, but a bomb went off at Port Authority, and Danny walks through that every day. And it missed Danny by what, a couple hours?
Couple hours either side, like if I went in for my super early or if I went in just for junkie.
This was today?
Yeah. Today.
Yeah.
How many casualties, or is it a big? I haven't tuned in, so I don't know.
They have the guy, but there were no casualties. But I think people got hurt, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard so far. I only read like really quick about it, like because I didn't even know about it until I was kind of already awake and stuff. Because I got to come in like later today. Yeah, it looks like whatever he was trying to do failed, and it went off too early, and didn't even end up killing him.
Wow. Well, Goes and I were privy to a C4 explosion. Oh. And that opened my eyes as to just how bad, these bombs, what they can do. You hear it on the news, and so obviously you mourn the deaths and pray for the casualties, but without feeling it, you don't know what other repercussions can come from this on both sides. But what I mean more than anything is the impact it has on just a survivor. On a survivor that's 100 feet away. Wait, no, we were 100 yards away. And I thought about that mofo event for like a good 30 minutes. I just kept asking people, like, "Would you feel it? Did you feel it? Did you feel it?" And a few people shook it off, but I was like, "Whoa!" Like I felt it,
Yeah.
And that was just one bar of C4, and I was 100 yards away. I can only imagine anybody else is just going about their business. They feel something like that, and how it can rattle them and affect them for days or weeks or months or who knows what.
Whenever you see in a movie a gold bar, that's what the C4 looked like, about the size, right? And
yeah.
If you've been in the studio here in Vegas, where the TV is right behind George, to about maybe where the opposite corner of the sportsbook is, I would say it was even a little bit further. But George is right. Here's the sequence of the explosion. First, you see the cloud, then you hear it, and then you feel it. And it was so weird to feel it because where they explode the bomb, it was surrounded by 4 walls.
Thick walls,
concrete walls. What you would, if you see a dumpster
in a sand pit.
Yeah, like if you work in a shopping center and there's a dumpster where you can dump your trash, it's usually surrounded by something like that. That's what it looked like. It was pretty high, and we still felt it. So I can't imagine what a bomb like that would feel like going off right next to a human being.
Exactly.
That's just scary as hell, man. I'm glad you didn't have to go through that, Danny.
Yeah, that's a wake-up call on top of the many hundreds and thousands of wake-up calls we get all the time. Scary times. All right, this past weekend, UFC. How was California, by the way?
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of work. But we were happy when it was all said and done.
All right. Dan and I saw each other on Saturday night. We watched the fights together. Fun night of fights. There was a couple that were like, eh. Then there was some great ones. But just like every MMA card out there, even the ones that don't look as sexy on paper, they, at one point or another, they deliver. That's why I told you, man, the UFC, those guys, like, they're just handing out crack cocaine. You become a fan, you're hooked. How about that knockout with Aljamain Sterling and Marlon Moraes? Before we even get to the main event, just that knockout. Oof, man. I like Sterling. I love having him on the show, having him in the studio. I just like him competing as one of the members of 35. I think he brings something to the table. But that was sad to see. He got stretchered out, and he's okay. Went to the hospital, but if you'll notice, when they announced the winner, it was a referee, Marlon Moraes, and they were like right up against the cage. Fox and the UFC obviously don't want to show what's happening in the background as the fighter's still being tended to, and I don't blame them. And then even the interview when Paul Felder came in, same thing. It was off to the cage, so I knew at that point something was serious and praying for that guy. But our John Morgan, who was there, let us know that he was up and walking around in the back. Still needed to be taken to the hospital for further evaluation, but still one of the scarier moments there in our sport.
I can't really think of too many other. I mean, the momentum of that it looked like he was trying to go for like a switch kick, but the knee is actually what delivered. There was some an incident
he
like that
admitted it too.
about a
He said
year
he was
ago
trying to
too.
kick, and the knee just was right there.
Yeah, but the momentum of that knee and just hitting him flush like that. Ooh.
If you could recap 2017, the knee, right, or even late 2016 with the MVP last year, the knee's just been in full effect. How about Brian Lopez? Was that his name?
Benito Lopez.
Benito Lopez.
Yeah,
I mean, he was throwing some vicious knees as well. But man, a lot of fighters are just launching those knees, and they are devastating. Hats off to Marlon Moraes. 2 wins in 30 days. We compared it to Bisping. Should we be letting him do it? He's coming off a win. Bisping was coming off a loss, but wear and tear. He fought, he performed. Is it good for the soul? Is it good for the mind? And this guy did the opposite. He got 2 wins, and now he can actually take some time off, let things shake out in that division, possibly look at a title shot at some point. Automatic? I don't know. He probably have to take one other fight. But like I said, the sport just amazes me, man, how one playbook can look great, and the other person tries to execute the same playbook, and it can be devastating.
Yeah.
And he already wants to get back in there, which is the crazy part. Marlon, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, he was already talking to Sean Shelby after, pointing to him like a referencing a conversation they had, and then reiterated it on, I think, on the post fight or something like that. And as far as Aljamain Sterling KO, yeah, I mean, I sentiment what you guys said and what George was saying. That's why it's good to follow guys like John Morgan on Twitter, guys who are always on the scene, because they don't exactly always address those things in the broadcast, or they're not the best about it, right? So sometimes you really have to depend on those eyes on the scene. So thanks, John, for that. But yeah, in class to Marlon, though, because in the post fight, Marlon was giving a lot of class to Aljamain, wishing him well, reminding the audience that we're here to win, but we're not here to hurt each other. So big props to Marlon on that as much as the win. That was nice to see.
If you guys remember, if you can go back to another champion that left an organization, if we go back to Eddie Alvarez, he lost his first fight in the UFC, the Cowboy.
Yeah.
But then he bounced back, and that's when he started his role.
Gilbert and
Pettis. And then, this could be something for Marlon.
Good comparison.
Marlon was a champ in the World Series of Fighting. He lost his first fight, but then he put everything together. It's 2 straight good wins too. So this could be the beginning of something big for him.
And they're both part of the Mark Henry camp, So I'm sure one guy could point to the other one. Hey, listen, don't let that first loss shake you up.
Yeah.
Brighter days ahead. Just keep focused. And I think a lot of that respect came from one fighter was from Serra Longo, lineage Renzo Gracie, and then the other fighter was from Mark Henry's camp. You could almost say Frankie Edgar's kind of like their captain there. Again, a Renzo Gracie type of lineage. So didn't surprise me that there was a lot of class respect, a lot of concern from Moraes towards Sterling. I don't know how tight they are, but
yeah.
All right, listen, today's show is going to be fun. We're going to have Ricardo Lamas on the show. He fights this Saturday. So as we put to bed UFC Fresno this week, we also got to start focusing on where they at? Winnipeg, right?
It's nonstop.
Winnipeg on Saturday, where Ricardo Lamas will be facing Josh Emmett. This fight's important because when Brian Ortega defeated Cub Swanson, which we'll get to in a second, people were already talking about, could he be next? He was very respectful and said, that's Frankie Edgar's shot. I'll take the next one. But I was thinking, I wonder if Ricardo Lamas has a problem with that. Because Ricardo's been putting in some time. He has been winning since losing to Max Holloway and since he lost his shot to Jose Aldo. He's also had a couple key losses that may have set him back, whereas Ortega has no losses. But at the same time, a lot of times I don't know if just beating Cub Swanson gets you there. I feel like there may be one more name needed. So I think Lamas not only has to win, but protect his spot. And by that I mean finish Emmett, say something witty or say something gangsta, and stay on that interview circuit. Shit, we're gonna on today's show, we're gonna book him for next week too. Should he beat Josh Emmett? Now we were with Faber about a week ago, and he kept praising Emmett, and he thinks Lamas has his hands full, and I believe him. I mean, every fight's tough. So we'll see. Emmett's 3-1 in the UFC. He could go to 4-1. That one loss though is what would set him behind Ortega, but beating Lamas would be street cred. So, interesting times there at 45. Holloway and Edgar, I think we all know is next, but what comes after that, that's key. Ricardo Lamas would be against the first Paul Felder, who won last week and the week before, and this past week announced and did great in both. We'll catch up with him, and then we'll catch up with Glover Teixeira, also fighting at UFC on Fox, Lawler versus Dos Anjos in Winnipeg, Canada. So it should be a fun show. Sprinkled in between, we'll do some calls, 866-522-2846. And I know a lot of you have been bugging me all year. We'll probably do an NFL recap as well. Throw out some scores from yesterday's
it's kind of a busy
the
show,
games. Huh? Well, we'll try and squeeze it in. We try and listen to the audience a little bit. Back to the fights. The main event was Cub Swanson versus Brian Ortega. And Brian Ortega defeated him. He submitted him. Great performance from Ortega. I didn't think he would do it. My predictions were Swanson all day. Not all day, but Swanson. What I mean by all day is I bet him. I had him as a junkie pick. We did our video predictions, so nowhere did you see me fluctuate. I've done that in the past where I feel good about something on a Monday. Come Thursday, I'm like, nah, I'm liking the other side. Or I like someone gun to the head, junkie staff pick, okay. But then you look at the odds, you're like, wait a minute, that dog has a chance. So, but this one was across the board. I was pretty much Cub Swanson. And, man, Ortega's tougher than I thought. I knew Ortega was good and getting better. But his ability to just grab you and all of a sudden put you in his world was amazing to me. I knew he could submit Swanson, but I thought there'd have to be the takedown process, set it up, throw some punches, maybe hurt him, maybe put him down, or maybe execute a takedown. Just go through a process of improving your positions and then getting the eventual either the ground and pound stoppage or he turns his back, he choke. I don't know. But for him to just grab him and start attacking his neck like that, that was impressive, man. Hats off to Brian Ortega, who double bonused, by the way. He defeated Cub Swanson. Your reaction goes, what'd you think of that fight?
I thought it was interesting afterwards to hear from Cub and some of the psychological reasons that were going on. He said when you watch it, it did almost look like he tapped super fast, right? It looked like he just kind of panicked, and he said he panicked. And he talked about even earlier in the week feeling sick the morning of the fight. A lot of different factors, but I just feel like that was Brian Ortega's best performance. Like I just don't think he could look any better than that. It was his night.
Yeah, definitely. He showed new folds to his game, right? He showed that he could take a shot. I mean, he's already showed that to us, but now we've seen him against a veteran striker, a guy who can actually has power in his punches like Cub Swanson. He took those, and like George was saying, it wasn't that he was able to submit him. We knew that, but usually there is some type of process. Even unorthodox, there's still some type of process. But guys, we talk about KO power and submissions, or what's the closest like a KO equivalent in a submission threat? Well, I think we're seeing it, right, with Brian Ortega. I mean, if you want to say guys got one-shot power, I mean, submissions, it's hard to get a lucky submission. It's still a different game, obviously, but if we're going to talk about who comes closest, boy, Brian Ortega is making a case for himself.
Did you guys hear the story about the little kid that he had to hold Cub?
And then he may have gotten him sick.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with that. I remember Trig was one guy where there were times when he had a fight coming up in studio. If I were sick, I would try and stay away from him, even when we used to go to his house to do the show.
Yeah.
And he would always tell me, he goes, I'm not afraid of that. He goes, my body's in such good shape that I would fight off any of that stuff. None of that stuff would ever get to me. And I've heard that from a couple fighters, and I wonder if just the psychological aspect of having a sick person around you, that plays games with you.
Well, he said he physically didn't feel well, not just mentally. But we don't know that somebody else may have been sick in his hotel, not just the kid.
But just hearing that, you know,
or maybe he was just due to get sick. But yeah, that was a bummer to hear that, and I don't blame him for thinking back to that because, you know, I think the guy exaggerated, or he said he's deathly ill. I doubt the kid was deathly ill if he was out. He just meant he was sick, but that just sucks.
I will say though, the hard thing about when fighters do bring up injuries, whether you want to believe them or not, you obviously side on the side here of taking their word for it, obviously, especially with Cub. But when fighters cut weight, their immune system naturally goes down, so that in turn makes them susceptible. So I think that's the tricky part. That's why I'm always leaning on the side of the fighters, because it's happened to me cutting weight before, even for amateur competitions. I've gotten sick the week of weight cut, and I have a really good notorious immune system for not getting sick. I will add one more thing in the main event, though. One gripe is the doubling up on bonuses. I will say I thought Benito Lopez and Albert Morales should have got that fight.
So do I.
Albert Morales,
and give Ortega performance,
exactly. Especially guys like Morales, who he doesn't have the best record, and he might get cut after this, but the dude has brought it every time. And I just like seeing those guys get the fight of the night.
I'd like to see him not get cut too.
Me too. That too. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a tough guy, man. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Not hating on Ortega's money, let him go out there and get it.
Yeah,
he had a great post fight. He wants to help kids, and then of course Dana White put out a video in regards to a kid that's getting bullied, and that went viral.
Right,
I don't know if it was because of him or he was just joining in on a movement, for others that may have brought it up. Do you know?
Dana White was
where his role was in it.
Dana White was the first UFC/MMA person to grab a hold, asking who is this kid, and then I saw everyone else follow suit. It may be different than that. Feel free to correct, but that's the timeline that I saw.
Yeah, this guy's got tickets to the Titans, to University of Tennessee, any football games they might have. I think he can go as a date with some hot chick somewhere. So a lot of people responded. He'll be protected. He'll have bodyguards for days. But it was painful to see that, and that happens everywhere in the United States. It happens everywhere all over the world.
Paul Felder was one of the guys that responded.
Did he?
Yeah. Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Saw that.
Paige Van Zandt. Yeah, a lot of people want to get involved. Keaton Jones is his name, the little bully victim. And like I said, this is happening everywhere. If you feel like your kid's getting bullied, you really need to. I know a lot of parents will say you got to punch them back. You gotta teach them. Look, I'm not saying that doesn't work. I think there's more to that. Console them if you have the means. Get their confidence up, because it's not just a matter of pushing back and then that's it. That may not be the only time you encounter a bully. Maybe teach them some skills, take them to a martial arts class, or if you know anything, teach them some moves, teach them anything.
Yep.
Be there for them, get their confidence back up, and also, I guess, teach them to not turn into a bully, and be preventative. If you see it in the neighborhood, and your little participation may get somebody to think and react. I mentioned a story about 3 to 6 months ago where I thought I saw something going on, and I went out there. Some parents wound up coming in. At one point, I thought, should I have gotten involved? Should I not? But I'm just hoping maybe one kid decided, what are we doing here? Did I tell you guys about that or no?
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
But at that time, I felt like they were actually glamorizing it. They were fighting. I know I saw a fight. They weren't playing. They tried to tell me they were playing. I could tell the kid he needed some direction or whatever. But others were watching, and so in the end, we kind of had a good conversation. If you see something, say something. And there was one kid who actually was participating by standing up for someone else. So you can have more an effect than you think you do.
I think first and foremost, you gotta talk to the school right away, because you're right. I mean, it is important. Maybe put the kid in a martial arts class, something to build their confidence, but that all takes time. You're not gonna learn everything in day one and feel confident to go out and protect yourself on day two. That takes a lot of time for you to gain that type of confidence. And meanwhile, what are you going to get your ass kicked every day until then, get bullied until then? So I think first and foremost, you got to talk to the school.
And schools don't play now,
right? What are you guys doing?
Like if you miss a class, don't they pretty much call your parents right away? And
you can see the grades online now.
I was under the impression schools don't play anymore. I don't know.
in this day and age, you guys are right. I have a little bit of a strong opinion, being A, someone who has been bullied and gotten a lot of fights growing up, B, somebody who got into martial arts to use that self-confidence since I was a young boy, and C, has spent 3 different martial arts, 3 different facilities, multiple years teaching children and running kids programs. So I have a little bit of an opinion on this, and I'll just kind of sum it up quickly, is that a little bit of one-on-one time goes a long way. You don't need to have them be a lifelong martial artist to have them learn how to punch back. It's not even about punching back. You guys are right. But I think I was talking to Simon Samano on Twitter last night because we were saying I hope Keaton's parents accept the UFC's offer and Dana White's offer to bring him out here, because even, of course, he's not going to be an ultimate fighter or this or that's not the point. But, man, I'll tell you, from personal experience, just giving a kid a little bit of one-on-one attention, oh, boy, does that do wonders. Not the fake, because kids can tell, not the fake democratic, fake attention we're giving them in school, where, you know, this I'm sure, I don't know how much better or worse it is now with the current climate we're in, but at the end of the day, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of climates or environments take, from bullying to what's acceptable, you have to have a strong human being, and I'm sure we all, you know, would want, if we have a child, it was tough for us to speak here, but you know, you want that self-confidence no matter what they do in life, and I think martial arts is a great outlet. I think that's why, you know, we see so many great stories come through your guys' show here in the last how many years now? I mean, and I think the reason why there's such great stories is because martial arts is such a great vehicle. The sport we cover, it's such a great vehicle for kids like this Keaton to overcome. And I think that's why, whether it's me speaking passion or, more importantly, guys like DC, these guys who have big names who can do something, you see them speaking passionately about it, not because, you know, they're fake. I mean, we can speak for DC, especially you guys knowing him. That's not it. I mean, these guys legitimately, you know, found that in martial arts and know the benefit of it. So it's beautiful to see our sport kind of not take itself so seriously, forget about any dramas or feuds, and seeing all these fighters kind of come and give a little bit of a hope. It's unheard of, social media growing up, of, you know, tell me that, you know, Chicago Bulls players, but hey man, hang in there, Dan Tom. Like that wouldn't have happened. You know what I'm saying?
The champ of the world sent him a message. How cool is that, man?
Yeah, how crazy is that?
What the Tennessee Titans had a few people also reach out, a couple former NFL players, and then a lot of pro fighters, and some celeb chick who's just pretty. I know that much. I don't know much, but I know that.
Do you know her name?
Huh?
Do you know her name?
We could look it up, I guess. I should have kept the Twitter timeline open, but I saw it. But she wanted him to be her date, and I'd never heard of her. But she was beautiful, man. So hopefully Keaton just goes for that, man.
Yeah, that's what that. Yeah,
you know, try and get a little smooch at the end.
Yeah. Hey Daniel, can I give you a call back? I'm on a date.
Yeah.
Gabriel Benitez defeated Jason Knight in the main event. I think Knight bit off a little more than he can chew early on. But, all right, that's just me slipping in that joke. I couldn't believe he did it. He actually bit Gabriel Benitez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gabriel Benitez got a win, though. That shocked me, man. I knew Benitez was good, but I thought Knight was progressing a little bit further along, and I thought Knight was going to get him. That was my prediction. But Benitez overcame a lot. An eye poke, I believe, a kick to the groin, getting bit, and he's just kept going after him. He's gotten a lot better since the show, the reality show. And he's a player now. That's a great win for him.
And props to Knight. He never stopped coming that whole fight. He did not stop coming forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gabriel Benitez is definitely, speaking of tough Latin America, he's one of the best guys, in my opinion, to come off that show. Rican Barzola, who beat him, probably has a say in that now because he's a winner. But Benitez is one of those real talents. He went right to AK after the show, put in his hard work, and, you know, I was wrong on the pick. I was with you guys. I thought Knight was going to get it done on the floor. He looked a little listless to me, guys. I don't know. I'm not making excuses. Props to Benitez. Knight looked a little listless, but I did know Benitez was live, so I did make him my underdog pick in the betting article for DraftKings. So hopefully you did that, because Benitez was like the lowest priced guy on there, and he was live, man. He showed it, and you really can't take away props from Benitez after that.
I think Knight is tough for starters.
Yeah.
Athletic. He's very flexible. You know, he's tough on the ground. He's tough on the feet. He throws a lot with bad intentions. But I think his techniques just need to be a little bit more refined. There's a lot of swinging and missing, which tests your cardio, but at the same time leaves you open. But I think he can definitely shore things up. I still feel young in the sport. and he can be a player at 145 pounds.
Yeah.
I mentioned Moraes knocked out Aljamain Sterling. It was quick, and if he wants to fight again, great. But I feel like he can really just sit back, let things play out. Scott Holtzman defeated Daryl Horcher. Unanimous decision across the board there, 33-30-27s. Eric Anders defeated Marcus Perez. Benito Lopez started things off by defeating Albert Morales. All right, we got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, hopefully we'll be talking to Ricardo Lamas, one of the big players this weekend at UFC on Fox 26 in Winnipeg, Canada. I'll also give you more results from this past weekend, including Bellator MMA, which had one of their world champions defending. The rest of the prelims here, LFA was in effect. Invicta was in effect. One championship was in effect. It was a crazy weekend of MMA. We'll be right back.
compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
SiriusXM wants you to turn on the joy this holiday season with your chance to win a trip for one of 4 All-Star sporting experiences. The 2018 Pro Bowl in Orlando, the Honda NHL All-Star Game in Tampa, the the NBA All-Star Game in Los Angeles, or the MLB All-Star Game in our nation's capital. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/All-Star-Trip before January 2nd, 2018. No additional purchase necessary to enter or to win, and you got to know this sweepstakes is not sponsored, administered, produced, or executed by either the NHL entities, NBA entities, MLB entities, or NFL entities.
A lot of entities.
Yeah. See that chick?
Where?
See those titties? Oh, sorry. All right, so here we are on the MMA Junkie Radio Show, and it's Monday. We're recapping, everything that took place this past weekend. Oh my God, what am I, a misogynist? Honda NHL you can tell the Big Four does not play around when it comes to legal jargon, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, they all have their sponsorships and official titles, and they want to let you know that they had nothing to do with what may or may not. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's MMA has a ways to go still, but they obviously have a learning curve, and I think one can look back one day and say, hey, they're a major player, because MMA is not stopping. It continues to grow. Stars are born all the time, and I'm not saying Ortega is going to be a pay-per-view draw, his next fight. Oh my God, 500 grand, nothing like that. But I just feel like something was created there, and Moraes, that's 2 big wins for him. We'll see that UFC's got a lot of young fighters that they can turn to.
It's back to back to back. Like, as great as a performance as it was for Ortega, a lot of people are going to forget because there's a card this week, and we're going to start all over.
It was special times when we had Ronda and Conor at the same time, and now GSP's return. But as was stated over the weekend by a few people, those are just special times that we have draws like that. Collectively, the UFC and a lot of their athletes are the draw, and that's why it continues to get big, and that's why Dana White says this is the biggest year ever, and there's just no stopping that train.
One of my favorite things to do right now when I'm looking up fights and doing my research is not just going back and watching the fight and looking what card it happened, but sometimes, especially when I'm going back further, I'll click on that card to see who was on that card, and now I've been comparing lineups, and it's interesting as time goes on. Huh?
I've been addicted to seeing when fighters' first fights were, what card.
Yeah, I haven't done that as much, but I do look when we interview someone. I go, what year did they start? Is today a special day in any way? They usually forget. They don't know. Hey, by the way, your first fight was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But I happened to come across UFC 139. I'm trying to remember why. I think people had said 218 was that the greatest,
Rankings.
and somebody had a question, what was the greatest? And I started thinking, well, I don't know, man. There's different reasons why a lot of them were great. Like, I don't remember the whole specifics of Weidman versus Anderson. But what I'll never forget is that collective roar for the fight that was happening, and how loud silence can be when his leg broke and he went down and they actually crowned a new champion. Like, that left an impression.
Second one?
Yeah, when he broke his leg.
The first one was the one that stood out.
Well, the first one too. The first one too. I mean, but I started thinking one of the greatest fights I ever saw was Shogun and Hendo in San Jose, the first one. I was there for that one. That night was special for me because I did very well gambling, and I saw it with some junkies. I also got to sit front row, like literally front row, for about 2-3 fights, courtesy of King Mo.
Oh wow!
Chael Sonnen proceeded to introduce me to what was his fiance at the time as John Morgan. I didn't correct him. I just said, "Yeah, hey, how you doing?" But Chael's actually really good with memory. But he called me John from MMA Junkie as opposed to George from MMA Junkie. But it was really, really cool, man. That was one of my favorite nights. I don't know if there'll ever be a best night for me because so many different cards represent so many different feelings, I guess. But I wanted to give you an example of what a great performance can do with that main event, and just what eerie silence can do in that leg break.
Yeah, I still haven't deleted the video from the night.
Which one?
I don't know if this is when Weidman won the title or the second time when the leg break, but I've kept it on my phone.
Yeah. All right, so Ricardo's there. He's ready to go. Ricardo Lamas will be fighting this Saturday, UFC on Fox 26. No cursing, Ricardo. This is Big Fox. They don't play. And he's got Josh Emmett ahead of him. Now, like I said earlier, boy, they were quick to say, Ortega, title shot, blah, blah, blah. And he deferred to Frankie Edgar, but he thought maybe next would be appropriate. He seems like a respectful kid. I'm not trying to clown him. But the first thing I thought about was, well, what does Ricardo Lamas have to say about all this? Let's book him and ask him. What's up, Ricardo Lamas? How you doing, my man?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Doing great. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. Good to have you here. You're right at the end of your camp. I believe you fly out this week or today or tomorrow to Winnipeg. But what had you on my mind was just the whole thing that shook out there with Swanson and Ortega, and what you may have been thinking as it unfolded.
I actually missed the fight. It was on pretty late over here. I was getting some rest, working out, dropping a little weight, and I missed the fight, but I caught the submission at the end. It was nice.
It was nice.
Kid definitely got some slick moves.
Right. And right away, Paul Felder did his job. He asked him what's next for you, kind of where do you fit in the title picture, and Ortega mentioned, that he felt like Edgar should be next, but he'd love to fight the winner. So I guess as I'm telling you that, or as you've read by now, what's your reaction to that? Do you feel like you beating Emmett puts you in that spot as opposed to Ortega?
I don't know, man. I don't like talking past fights. I'm not even thinking about a title fight right now because I have somebody in front of me that I have to get through first. So, I'm sure I'll have plenty to say about it on Saturday. Barring that the fight goes my way and I perform well and all that. So Saturday I'll have plenty to say. I'll just have to tune in and listen in.
What was the drop off from Aldo to Emmett in terms of, I guess, what you were feeling about the matchup? Was there one, or do you just see a shadow in front of you? Whoever's there, he's trying to kill you, and you're trying to do the same to them.
Yeah, definitely. Just whoever's in front of me is whatever to me. It doesn't matter. Every opponent brings a little bit of a different style, but at the level that we're at, we have to be able to adapt to anyone at any time. So we had enough time to watch his fights and kind of see his tendencies, and I know what to expect going in there. So this camp, I just worked on myself and got as ready as I possibly could, and it doesn't matter who's standing across that octagon from me.
So much stuff has gone on in your career. Do letdowns even get to you anymore? I mean, was it even a letdown when you found out Aldo was out of your fight and fighting for a world title?
It's a part of this game. You know what I mean? The fight game is very unpredictable, so you kind of got to roll with the punches. You have no other choice. I can't just sit here and throw a tantrum like a little kid. I got to suck it up and keep training and just keep doing what I've been doing, and that's finishing fights.
Ricardo Lamas, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He fights on Saturday versus Josh Emmett at UFC on Fox 26 in Winnipeg, Canada. All right, what do you have for Ricardo Lamas?
Ricardo, guys like Aldo, Holloway, Swanson, you've shared the cage with them before. Is there a little bit of a bond that you create when you share the cage with a guy? And when you watch them fight later on, is there a piece of you that maybe roots for one over the other because of that?
Yeah, I definitely would say that there's some kind of bond. You're both putting it all on the line out there together and entertaining the masses. So, you bleed together, and after the fight, you let go of pretty much any animosity there was or is. And I definitely, will root on the guys that I've fought in the past. I want to see everybody do well.
These two wins that you've had back-to-back, to me, it's one of the strongest Ricardo Lamases I've ever seen. Do you feel that way? And is there anything that you can attribute to to these performances? Like, did you change anything in camp, or was it just a matter of a mental issue?
I just feel like I continue to improve. I haven't hit a plateau yet in my career. So every camp that I go through, I add new things to my arsenal, and I improve, in little increments here and there. So that's what I attribute it to. I think maybe the biggest change was having a family of my own, because now I'm not just fighting for myself, I'm fighting for my kids, I'm fighting for my wife, and that's a huge motivator. So I think that was probably the biggest change that you've seen in me in the last couple of years.
Ricardo, and I sentiment what Goes said. You have been looking great, and it can be almost, frustrating, I imagine, with the way, the current climate is a sport. You're in a very stacked division. But tell me, you might not want to call people out or think about a next opponent, but what about this approach? There's a lot of guys who are down to take fights short notice because, those opportunities do tend to come up a lot right now. Would that be something maybe you would do in the future? For example, when a title fight comes up or a number one contenders fight, you stay ready as a veteran, ready to come in there and upset someone's day?
Yeah, I think every fighter kind of has to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities, especially if it's for a title. I hopped on Twitter when I found out that Frank Edgar was injured. I was ready to go. I was ready to jump in there. So it was something that I would have done, and it's something that I would still do in the future.
Okay, so just to clarify, since you're obviously with your ranking and your standing, you're within striking distance in the conversation. Is this something after this fight you think you might consider doing, kind of staying ready?
Yeah, I think so. The sport is unpredictable. I mean, guys get hurt all the time in training camp, so I train all year round. There is no really off season for me, so I'll stay ready after this fight for sure.
I see the gym is ready to open. You told us about it last time you were on the show, but you're in that pre-sale phase, like you called it on Twitter, at Ricardo Lamas MMA. So this hasn't been a distraction for you, though, right? I think you said you had the right people in place to help you open up this gym while you trained?
Yeah, I have 2 other partners, so they kind of handled all that stuff for me while I was in Miami training and concentrating on that. I just hopped on a few conference calls here and there, but nothing that interfered with my training. And yeah, we're pretty excited about it. We're actually, I got to go sign the documents to close on the loan today, and then we're going to move right into pre-sale and get this thing rolling.
There you go. All right. Ricardo, well, you kind of stated earlier you're not going to look past Josh Emmett. I respect you for that. I'll just do it for you. I really feel like, no disrespect to Ortega, but I feel like this is your time. You know what I mean? So, good luck on Saturday. And if Emmett's the better man, then he's the better man. But I feel like a solid win here kind of puts you in that spot to face the winner of Edgar and Holloway. And you know what I'd like to see, too, kind of parlaying off what Dan says? I'm hearing that fight may take place in Vegas in March. And if it does, man, I'd like to see you featured on the same fight card just so that you're on the same timeline as the champ. And, God forbid, something happens to either guy, you're right there in the mix. You know what I mean? Because, like, in looking at your career and all the wins you've had, you've earned your spot. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying this is like a super fan or anything like that. I mean, 18-5 with wins over Oliveira and Knight and Sanchez and Bermudez and Koch and Swanson and Hioki. I mean, that stands for something. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely, man. I feel it too. I feel like sometimes I don't get the respect I deserve in the division or from the UFC. I'm a finisher. I go out there and finish fights, and I'm going to keep doing that. So these guys are going to learn to respect me sooner or later. I love it. All right, folks, that's Ricardo Lamas. We got to let him go. He's got to sign some papers and hop on a flight. Thanks for the time. Thanks for squeezing us in, buddy. We appreciate it, as always. Anytime. Thanks, guys. All right, take care. That's an intense Ricardo Lamas. Yeah. Usually we get around to food and maybe joking around, but it's fight week, so it's like, I'm fucking somebody up in about 6 days. Give me the questions so I can get off the phone so I can just get that laser focus on. But he's really, really a awesome guy to hang out with. So much fun. I wish he would do a little bit more of those fun videos like he did when he roasted Connor a little bit, because that's really the side. That's really Ricardo Lamas.
Man, he had a really funny one.
You know what I mean? That's Ricardo Lamas, not the serious guy you see out there.
And I really do think he's like that perfect prototype for fighters who, if you know, he's not the only fighter who we've said it, on the show before. I don't like to call people out. I don't like to do this. That's fine. I respect that. But I think another good strategy for those guys to play is play the other game. Be ready to ruin those guys' day, especially a guy like a veteran like Lamas who can go in there, like he said, against any style, hold his own against any ranked guy. It only seems to make sense. I could see him upsetting a lot of dudes just by being available for when these matches fall apart.
And how about what we've seen in 2017? I'm sure it happens every year, but I feel like some years there's like this wave of what I'm about to say. Cowboy, veteran, Darren Till, see ya. Cub, veteran, Brian Ortega, see ya. You know what I mean?
Going on.
Emmett is a younger guy than Lamas, but Lamas is a 35-year-old, like Goes pointed out, who's looked good in his last few fights. Ricardo explained that it had to do with he's fighting for someone else other than himself. Usually at 35, lighter weight classes are starting to check out. Hey, man, I don't have that speed. The body's breaking down, you know? The lighter weight classes, they're not like the heavier weight classes where at 35 you're reaching a peak. Here, a lot of guys are headed in another direction. Now, that said, there's fighters like Frankie Edgar who seem to just get stronger and stronger as they get older. But Jose Aldo, you know, I mean, he got pushed aside by a young Max Holloway. I feel like I've seen a lot of that in 2017. Lamas didn't stay awake to watch the main event, but trust me, a lot of these veterans know what's going on, and they know that, you know, they get these little wake-up calls, hopefully, and they have to be on point because the young guns are coming after them.
Yeah,
100%.
every once in a while, though, like the one that I had thought about that too, and a guy, Anthony Pettis, who was victim to that for a little bit, he kind of turned it around. Another guy is Dustin Poirier, right? He's one of those guys that's done that to a few people too, so
yeah,
it's kind of sad, man.
I wonder if Dustin Poirier ever hangs back and just goes, you know, that Max Holloway guy, I got him.
Yeah,
that's a key win for him that he can always look back on. You know, a lot of people like to clown him for the McGregor loss, but you can say, yeah, all right, that champ got me, but I got that other guy. I was here at Mandalay Bay, actually. I remember that fight.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when he was in our studio telling us about snapping necks back for snakes. Who's that?
This is Ricardo Lamas' Instagram. He just does goofy things, man. It's so funny.
What is it, just Ricardo Lamas MMA?
Ricardo Lamas MMA. Yeah.
I hope I'm following him. If not, I'm going to do that right after the show. Let me write it down. We got to take another break. You are listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM, Rush 93. When we come back, we'll do some stun guns from this weekend. I remember finally the one I wanted to do from a few weeks ago. It may not have the venom that I had, but I saw it. It's a commercial, and it bugs the shit out of me. There's a lot of things. And a lot of people that bug the shit out of me,
Nice
but I don't know how much time we'll have to spend on it, but that one's getting fried. All right, we'll be right back after this break.
show you guys this.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Your favorite holiday music channels are back on SiriusXM. Check out Contemporary Holiday Favorites on Holly, which is Channel 70. Holiday Traditions is Channel 4. You can also get our complete lineup at SiriusXM.com/holiday. Stun guns, who's got them?
I got him.
Goes.
Boom.
I'm leading off.
Yes.
I'm in a stun gun. Men's Warehouse. They sent me something that said they have 95% off.
I've seen as high as 80, but not 95.
80, 95. It's to the point where, do you even trust what you're getting? Like, how fucking horrible is this suit that you're willing to give it away practically?
Here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. You go in there, you go, fuck yeah, click, and you do it, and then they go, oh, all we got is someone like the size of Ian McCall. And you're like, oh, fuck. All right. Either that or someone the size of Brock Lesnar. That's all that's left. So when you go to the size.
Trick to get you to.
Kind of, and then you go, oh, what else do they have? And then they get you.
All right, so I want to stun gun them, and I want to stun gun Walmart because what the hell is Green Monday? Enough already with Black Friday. That's not even Friday. Now it's like on Wednesday and Cyber Monday. What the fuck is Green Monday? Enough. I'm going to buy gifts. You got me.
Dan?
You might want to go first.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what pisses me off is that little girl that's riding her bike in the Apple commercial, and she's got a little blog, Bug City, and she's grabbing coffee and snapping that thing back like she's just owning that iPad, right? And, you know, she's doing this and that and taking pictures, and I mean, she's having a fun day. God bless her, right? But at the very end, when she's in her yard and her neighbor just kind of looks over and goes, "What you doing?" You know, and she says whatever, and then she goes, "Are you on your computer?" And she goes, "What's a computer?" Oh man, what's a computer? Come on now. I get they're driving the point the iPad's their future, or maybe you can get it all done in an iPad. But if she's that sharp to do all that in one day, she's got to know what a fucking computer is, right? I know little kids right now that I go, "Hey, is that a typewriter?" They'll go, "No, sir, it's a computer, or it's an iPad, or it's a this." They know it's not a typewriter, even though no one really uses a typewriter. Typewriters at one time existed, or a landline. Yeah, we're all on cell phones, but at one point, every house had a landline, a house phone. People don't go, "What's a house phone? What's a typewriter?" You don't just forget about certain things of history. So iPad just got a little too cute for me, but I can't stun gun Apple. I mean, I'm an Apple user, and I want them around. Stun gun that little girl. She's the one that said it. She should have actually stood up for herself when she got that line and said, "I can't do this. I'll look silly. Somebody's going to stun gun me." So change it up. Yeah, thank you, Danny. You're doing a great job there.
This girl's like, she's fluttering on the
We
ground.
got 1 minute.
Now.
Can you fit yours in a minute?
Onions.
That's what she said.
Yes. Leave it at that. Drop the mic.
That's it.
Danny, you got one?
I got a high five from George.
I was gonna stun gun somebody different, but I'm gonna stun gun the guy at Port Authority today. So I'm gonna stun gun.
Oh, more than a stun gun. Fucking
Man, you guys took the easy
Drop
way
an
out.
H-bomb on her.
Onions, bombs.
Sorry.
Well, I want to stun gun the devil.
I stun gun a
My
little
other
girl.
Miles.
My other
Of course,
stun
you guys are
gun
gonna
was
get a high five.
I stun gun a little
People-
girl.
Yeah,
you-
she's
you're
still laying
driving
there.
in snow.
Huh?
She's still laying
I
there.
said,
Alright, sorry, go.
Miss Stun Gun George for making me Google iPad little girl riding a bike.
You haven't seen that commercial?
I can't find it.
This poor girl's getting
We'll find it. We'll find it during the break. All right, folks. In the second hour, we'll be talking to Paul Felder and Glover Teixeira. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word, life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The afterworld. A world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun, day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one, Dr. Everything will be alright. Instead of asking how much of your time is left, ask how much of your mind, baby. Cause in this life, things are much harder than the afterworld. This life, you're on your own. And if the elevator tries to break you down, go crazy, punch a higher floor. Take a look around. At least you got friends. I call my old lady for a friendly word. She picked up the phone, dropped it on the floor. That's all I heard. I'm gonna let the elevator break us down. Oh no, let's go. Go crazy. Let's get nuts. Look for the purple banana. See they put us in the truck. Let's go.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. We are now going to be joined by a guy that just can't stay out of the news. He's either whooping ass or, inside of the octagon, or kicking ass as a commentator outside of the octagon.
It's like a superhero.
He is, yeah.
He'll wear a suit. He's Clark Kent, and then all of a sudden, like
doing
James
great.
Bond, right?
He got great reviews. Did you see the reviews he was getting online?
Doing good, man.
Paul Felder?
Yeah.
People were feeling him, man. Congratulations. Let's bring him on. Paul Felder, what up, cuz?
What up, guys? What up?
Look at you. The only beef I would have is, why is it that they wait 1 week after you fight to all of a sudden, like, not even let you recover from the fight, and next thing you know, you're hopping on a plane, having a, it was, I think one time it was Scotland to New York, and the other one was Scotland to Pennsylvania, and I think the other one was New York to Fresno. So
didn't he have to do like Contender Series after Scotland?
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, to Vegas.
That was brutal.
I went right from Scotland, direct flight from Scotland to Vegas.
Yeah.
After Glasgow.
Couldn't they give you a week off?
No, I fought Stevie Ray on a Sunday night, and I was on a plane from Glasgow to Vegas on Monday morning.
Yeah. And of course, the Junkie Radio guys.
I had to carry all my luggage all the way to Vegas, and then all the way from Vegas back to Philly.
Paul has every right to go. Hang on a second. Before you bash the UFC for all these travel arrangements, you did put me on a fucking train on the way back. On the way back from Virginia to Philly. So
that's true.
I should just change the subject here.
Told you last minute too.
you weren't there for when he actually hit him.
Really?
He was like, "How are you guys gonna get back to Vegas before I get to Pennsylvania?" And that's when he saw it and went, "Oh my god!"
See the math being done.
I felt terrible. I did. Well, Paul, let's start in sequential order. First of all, congratulations on your big win 10 days ago. Massive win.
Yeah.
As I shared with you, we were actually back at JBLE watching it with the troops. And what I did was I was letting them know before every fight what each fight meant. That's something I may not have done when you were on our trip, because I was, hobbling. But I was letting them know that you were an alumni from a prior trip, and so was Felice. So they were fired up for both of you. I don't know if you know this, but Felice had been on the trip before you. But we were able to capture that moment where they were just going, USA, USA. A lot of them did remember you, and of course some of them were new and just wanted the American. But before we got to that point, you scared the shit out of us. Those Darces were coming in left and right.
Yeah, they were. They definitely were. I was in a lot of trouble in that early in that first round. He's slick, man. There's nothing that can be said other than he is good at what he does when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and he's not bad on the feet either. But once I was able to get on top and land some elbows, it was a game changer, and I felt that. felt that as soon as I hit him a couple times in the first round, I knew that if I can get back to that position and stay on top and not let him get top position, because obviously I can't do that kind of damage from the bottom, but that's why I kept going back in to stay on the ground, because I felt him kind of wilting a little bit.
Well, that actually is going to answer a question I'll have for you in just a second, but I will tell you this. As it was going down, I was with casual fans that were asking me, can he get out of it? And I was saying, I'm not so sure, because you come from a striking background, and I'm just not sure of how much you've immersed yourself with the grappling arts. But boy, you proved everyone that night that you did your homework on this guy, because like I said, he just kept tightening it from one squeeze to another, from one position to another. Who did you work on your submission defense? You addressed it in the post-fight interview that you worked on it, but who did you really put in all these countless hours that gave you the confidence to just stay calm in Oliveira's sequence of Darce attacks?
My coach Daniel Vanderlei at Rufus Sport, he's Carlson Gracie black belt, fought himself a bunch of times. He hasn't fought in a long time, but still very competitive. Still competes in no gi and gi in as many competitions as he can. He's a similar size to Oliveira and myself, so he's a perfect training partner, and he's our head jiu-jitsu coach over there at Rufus Sport, and worked with him pretty much every day in the gi and no gi, doing MMA stuff, wall work. So all those things, he really did a good job of being able to pick out the strengths of Oliveira. Like when he took my back, stuff we worked on every day. When he threw in the Darce, stuff we went over every day. So those were all positions, even though they sucked and they weren't winning me the fight, they were things that we knew very much, were a very high chance I was going to have to fight out of, and we were ready for it. So when I got in there, first thing he said before I walked out, he was like, just remember, when it hits the mat, done this every day, just stay calm. Don't freak out. And that's what we did.
Thing of beauty, man. Applying what you learned, in front of thousands in arena and millions at home. That simply was amazing, because when you guys got back up after all that, you could just tell he was a little shook. I felt like if you read body language, he felt like, wow, how did he get out of that? He's not supposed to get out of that. You know what I mean? And he had given you hell, and you had mentally defeated him, in that battle, physically beat him. His arms had to have been shot, and you were just raging with confidence.
Yeah, we knew he's a tough guy, but we know that he has a tendency to kind of break in fights. Usually it's because of strikes, like a guy will hit him hard or, land a good shot to the body, and that's how we thought we were going to get it done. But it ended up being really just being able to defend his jiu-jitsu and his submissions. And once he couldn't get me, I think he thought, oh, shit, like I just gave him the squeeze of my life. And I've choked out guys that are higher-level grapplers than him with these chokes. You know what I mean? Like Nick Lentz and all these guys, he's squeezing, guillotining these dudes who are much more accomplished grapplers than myself.
Mm-hmm.
But he just hasn't met somebody as crazy as me yet. So,
yeah, no doubt. Paul Felder, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. And so now we get to what you mentioned earlier. You felt like he was breaking, and that's why you wanted to stay on top. Because there in Virginia, I was thinking, let him up, strike with him, throw some of them hard kicks at him, throw some punches at him, maybe put him away that way. But you felt something different. You felt like you were not in as much danger to go back into his guard and just finish with the ground and pound.
Yeah, once I survived the first, I know it seems crazy to be watching, but I felt okay. I could feel him getting tired. And, you guys are watching it on TV or you're in the arena watching it. Nobody's as in there as I am, right? So I can hear him breathing. I can see his eyes. I can see that he's kind of thrown up all these things. And he's still, at that point, he was still desperately throwing up armbar attempts and triangles, but they weren't even close anymore. And he was just kind of rolling around. And at that point, I had already hit him with a few good elbows and dropped him a little bit there in the beginning of the second. And he was still dangerous. You saw him roll for the knee bars, which he came close to. But he kept, falling off of me, too. Did you notice that? He wasn't really able to... once I slid out in the second from the knee bar, he kind of just rolled off my back onto the canvas again. And that's when I was like, I'm going back in, and I'm just going to start timing elbows. I'm just going to stay calm, let him think that I'm just breathing and getting my energy back. But really, I was just sitting there waiting for him to kind of relax. And as soon as he relaxed, that's when I hit him with that elbow that he sort of tapped to or didn't tap or whatever the hell happened there.
Paul Felder, a guest on MMA Junkie Radio. Goes. Let's sit back and see what Dan has for Paul.
Hey, Paul. First of all, I want to say that you were making me sweat there, although I was glad you got to show your underrated ground skills. But yeah, you were making us sweat here watching you there. But congratulations first off.
Thank you.
I guess, secondly, man, with the turnaround, it only seems like you're getting better. It's, you count Dana White contenders, performances. You're on your junior or senior performances now as commentator, and it seems like you've been doing it for even longer than those performances represent. Is there any new folds that you're feeling, whether it's now having to jump back in the ring from a commentator or having to jump back in behind the desk from a fighter? Any new folds that you're finding interesting in your journey?
Yeah, I just I really feel like as a fighter going back to the fighting after having done Virginia not that long before my own fight. I mentioned it before too. I feel like I'm just getting more comfortable with the whole experience because I get to see it happen so many times. Get to see so many guys go in there and fight. You kind of see it from a very different angle and perception, and it kind of almost relaxes me more. I was a little less nervous going into this one, and just kind of start realizing the sport behind it. I can see that I just need, what needs to be done in there. And as far as going back to the desk or calling fights from the fighting, I feel like every time I go to the desk, I've got more experience. Every time I fight, they just lend themselves to each other really well. I kind of pick up from other guys and use it for myself when I fight, and vice versa. After I experienced it so soon in Detroit, when I called the fights, I felt like I had a real connection with these guys, especially in the post-fight interviews. I was just in there. I was just on that same canvas 1 week before. So, I feel like as a very active fighter like myself, I feel like these guys can kind of cling on to me a little bit, like, you know what this was just like in here. And I kind of give them that look, like, I know what you just went through, man.
That comes off on the broadcast, even from all perspectives, so I can only imagine it's that much stronger between fighters. And now, speaking of getting comfortable, and even speaking of the earlier thing on underrated ground game, you're getting more comfortable at Rufus Sport, and you're able to, I'm glad you mentioned, Daniel Vanderlei. We had another fighter from there.
Rafion Stotts.
You mentioned singing his praises as well. And so, what does it mean for you as far as getting comfortable from your perspective with a camp now? It's your multiple umpteenth camp you've done with them. And two, being able to represent them so well to show that, hey, we're not just strikers here. Hey, there's more guys than, certain names here. We're all doing well and growing. What does that mean to you, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just, that's been my third fight in a row with them. And the next one will be 4 in a row, and another camp where I just get more comfortable, and it's really become my family, and these guys are my brothers, and I just have such a strong connection with them, and the coaches now, we all speak the same language now. Early on with the first few fights, you're kind of getting into a rhythm. Me and Duke are getting into a rhythm on pads, and Coach Cush and Daniel, we're all kind of feeling each other out. And this fight, it really, for the first time, fully everything was clicking. I click with Duke. Obviously, me and him have a rhythm on the pads that's fun to watch. I mean, you could sit and watch me and him hit pads, and it's like watching a fight. But really, with Coach Daniel, I did jiu-jitsu pretty much every day. I was in the gi at least 3 or 4 times a week. And that was before I even thought I was fighting Charles. I thought I was fighting Al. It's just, there's so many jiu-jitsu classes and pro practices to take advantage of there that I'm basically living there, so why not just really try to improve my jiu-jitsu, especially when everybody just assumes that I'm more of a kickboxer. I mean, I've been working on my jiu-jitsu for a long time. Trust me, I don't want to have to show it. If I can get in there and land a knee or an elbow or a kick, that's how I want to keep going. That's how I want my career to be. But you got to have it, man. You got to have that in your back pocket, and we're definitely doing a lot of grappling at Rufus Sport, trust me.
Paul, later on that night, you have 2 guys in your division, in Eddie Alvarez and Justin Gaethje, and they have an all-out battle. And all I can think of was, sure, there's a winner and a loser in that fight, but it almost felt like there were 2 losers coming out of the fight, just because I'm not so sure those guys will be the same after a battle like that. And it made me think back to just how important your performances have been, because you've pretty much made it out with little to no damage in these fights. Can you talk about how important that is?
That's the goal, right? Hit and don't get hit, and that's why I train so hard in camp, and I spar and we drill everything so specifically because, man, I want to get in there and I want to get the job done, and it doesn't always happen, and I always make that clear leading up to these fights. How do you want it to go? Well, I want to knock the guy out or submit him. I want to get in and out, but I'm always prepared for a 3-round war. I'm just not trying to be in them. And, you got Eddie who's trying to be the most violent guy, and Gaethje who's looking for his equal. Go ahead. You guys can go and fight over that. Meanwhile, I'll silently be knocking everybody out and working my way towards the top 10, top 5, and sneak right in there and take that title shot from you guys, because the UFC loves wars, but you know what else they love? Seeing guys being able to fight multiple times a year and finish people. And the route that I'm going, not that it's going to always stay that way, of course, but if I can keep getting finishes and staying protected, I can fight 3 times a year and stay healthy. Like, I can fight right now. There's no injuries on me whatsoever. I just got some broadcast things that, I got to do, and then I can get right back into camp. So, yeah, that's always the goal. The more I can do that, it's 3 fights in a row where I've had just a couple bruises here and there. That's it. No injuries whatsoever. So, those guys, you're right, and that's what I was talking to a lot of people about, because those names were brought up. Who would you like to fight next? Man, those guys shouldn't be fighting for another 8 months, the damage that they took.
Yeah. Paul, 2017, you fought 3 times. You did the Dana White Contender Series. You've done a lot of analyst work. Do you forecast 2018 being somewhat similar? Did you like the pace of everything inside and outside of the cage?
Yeah, it has been. It has been wild, right? I mean, it's been a crazy year, dude. Yeah, I think it'll probably even be more hectic, to be completely honest with you. But it's keeping me busy, and that's the best way for me to be, is always working on something. It's hard. Maybe 1 less fight, maybe 2 bigger fights. That would be preferable. If I can get some ranked guys in the top 10, and win the first one, get a second one, that would be ideal. Maybe I don't need to fight 3 times this year, but I'm not going to count it out either. And definitely more analyst work you guys can be expecting for sure. There's already 2 or 3 on the books for 2018.
I love your commentating and everything you've been doing to this point. Now that you've been on that side of the fight, when you go back and watch your fight and you hear the commentary on your fight, does it sound weird to you at all, different, or are you critical of it at all?
Yeah, I'm maybe a little more critical, but, this last one was John and Joe, and I love both those guys very much. So I also know what it's like. Like, when you know a guy who's fighting, you almost end up finding yourself talking about the other person more, and maybe almost favoring them in your commentary because you don't want people to think you're biased. It's no secret Joe likes me as a fighter. No secret John likes me as a fighter, and now we're becoming buddies as well, working together. If you listen to that broadcast, Joe is doing nothing but talking about how dumb I am and how much Oliveira is crushing me in jiu-jitsu, all the way until I'm smashing with elbows, and then they both get behind me. And you can tell it's because they're being fair, and they're being, good analysts about it. So I didn't take any. Everybody's like, "Oh man, all he was talking about is Oliveira." I'm like, I don't care. He was smoking me on the ground for the first 3 minutes. So that's of course what they should be talking about. But yeah, it's interesting. I like to watch a lot of post-fight interviews now because I'm doing those now. That's really the challenge of broadcasting and color commentaries. Those interviews, you got to be quick. You got to come up with your questions, and you got to get in there and be assertive. I feel like I did a much better job in California than I did for only the few that I did when I was in Norfolk. It's tough, man. I was nervous for the first one. Now I feel like I'm getting a little more comfortable.
You realize, the only thing he hasn't done is carry a card with a number on it during a fight at this point, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
How long before he's walking in with round 2?
And Victor's going to have him come to one of those Chippendale guys.
Coming up, fellas.
Coming up. Paul, real quick, I just want to say that battling bias thing you're speaking of, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I have a name for it. I mean, you can take it if you want. Overcorrecting the steering wheel. Just it feels like if you're in your position,
Exactly.
you're gonna catch yourself doing that a lot. You're gonna catch yourself overcorrecting the steering wheel, especially if you're taught martial arts. You might do the same thing with students. But I like that you brought that up.
And I even did it a little bit this weekend, and I won't say who, but the guy's coach came up to me, who I know well now a little bit, and have hung out with and had a good time. And he had heard from his wife how critical and terrible I was saying that his cornering was. Well, really, I wasn't saying anything. It's just I know what needs to happen there too. And obviously, it's easier for me to just relax and sit on the outside and look at things. When you're cornering your fighter, and this is just somebody you love or care for, things are going to get hectic in there. But it's also my job to point those things out. You know what I mean? So we had a little talk about it. I hope everything's okay. But, I was a little more overly critical of the guy that I knew because I know him and I know what he needs to do. And, obviously, when you're seeing somebody lose, it's tough. But no big deal.
Did you rest your head on your pillow comfortably on Saturday night?
I did.
Then you don't have to question anything. You did as best as you could. You called it the way it is, and Goz and I, and now Dan, that's with us. We have in no way communicated like you have, in a different type of role. But we've had to do the same thing. But I'm telling you, we feel like if we're doing it as honest as we can, and those biases may come out, or they may not, or maybe we overcompensate, or whatever Dan said, something about the steering wheel. What is that, Dan? Overcorrect, yeah. But we lay our heads on the pillow knowing damn well that we called it like we as best as we could. You know what I mean? So
yeah. That's all you can do. You guys know that. You know all these fighters. You know them personally, and you still got to talk about this stuff. You got to talk about matchups. You got to talk about wins and losses, and whether something was not exciting, whether they like it or not. It's like, dude, that wasn't a great fight. What do you want us to say? It's nothing against you. They can't always be home runs,
Mm-hmm. I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I don't know if you used the word boring or if you just somehow phrased it in a way that you had described the fight as, less than exciting. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I was just wondering if you did you catch any flack for that brutal honesty, and how has your overall grade been from your producers as far as your performance? Because let me tell you this, Paul, if I'm right on that, and maybe Dan's the one that saw that on social media or whatever, it's refreshing and people are digging it, and overall, like on social media, to me it looked like you got an A as far as the grade is. But what are your people telling you?
Yeah, it's good. It's very good feedback. I mean, I'm getting notes obviously because that's the job. I mean, my producers are going to send me emails and say, "Hey, great job," and they're saying the same thing. They're all getting that feedback from Twitter and the guys in the the social media department. Were on my flight back with me. We had to go to LA, and then LA for me, we all connected to different cities, and they were like, "Man, every time you're on there, we get just overwhelmed with feedback from Twitter, just saying they want me back and all this kind of stuff." So that, as far as that goes, yeah, definitely an A so far. And just little notes and trying to get me to be sharper and better and things to think about as far as the UFC giving me notes. But definitely no big criticism, especially from the bosses, on saying those kind of things. If anything, it's I'm if my fight's ever like that, you better believe I expect somebody to be like, "Man, this is a slow fight. This guy, they're not doing anything. It is what it is." I mean, let's not cookie coat, these things for people. If you're in a boring fight, I'm going to tell you it's a boring fight. I don't care.
We're jumping around here a little bit, so apologies. But that tap that you stated you felt in your fight, I know a lot of people were like, "But if you felt it, why didn't you stop?" I mean, you very clearly told everyone you're not supposed to till the ref comes in. Stuff has happened in this sport before. But has anything changed since then, like now that you've gotten to see the fight, in regards to that stoppage?
Look, when you are in there, and the only people that know this are people that have been in there or have fought professionally, everything is in slow motion but super fast at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I felt that tap, right? Mm-hmm. But in the moment, I say I felt that tap as in I felt something. That doesn't mean that I thought or knew that Charles was tapping out. I just felt something that felt like a tap, and I waited 1 second. No ref stops it. Charles doesn't yell anything. Nothing happens. I am not going to stop and say, hey, ref, I think he tapped. And then the next thing I know, Charles is either working his way back up, and the ref continues the fight, or he's throwing up an armbar, and everybody's like, he was out. I don't know that at the time. You know what I mean? I have no way of knowing that. I'm in the moment as much as you can be as a human being. Fighting is as primal as it gets, and it's me or him. I'm trying to win money to take that home to my daughter and my family. I'm going to elbow that dude until somebody tells me to stop. And I know people are giving me a lot of crap. I'm not in there to hurt him permanently. The ref is right next to me. If he didn't see it and nobody stops it and Charles doesn't yell anything, I got to keep fighting. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he didn't tap. Maybe he did. But in hindsight, yeah, I mean, of course I wish maybe he wouldn't have had to take those extra elbows. But I don't know that.
Right.
And if I stop and say something to the ref, he might get out of there. He might take that as an excuse and an opportunity to escape.
Yeah. No, history has shown us in this sport the same thing. You have to go until the ref stops you, because anything can and will happen.
So it's starting to really frustrate me that people are still giving me stuff and calling me a D-bag, calling me, an asshole and all these things. And I mean, of course, it's social media. People are going to be that way regardless. But I mean, I was never, ever in there being malicious. And in fact, as soon as the fight was over, the first thing I did was, before I even put on my T-shirt, was go over to Charles and try to see if he was okay. And we gave each other a big hug afterwards. Look, I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I am. But within the confines of the rules of the fight, definitely not in there like, ooh, he tapped, I'm gonna whip his ass more anyway. That's not where my mind ever was at.
Paul Felder, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, commentator, fighter. He's doing it all. And like Goes pointed out, 2017 has been amazing for you. You went 3-0 in 2017, debuted as a commentator, and did well enough that you've picked up these other gigs. We thought it would maybe just be Dana White Contender Series and then see you in the next season, but they've been digging it because they've now had you. I think this is your third broadcast, man. That's so impressive, and we're so happy for you. And one last thing, I sent you that video. We caught the tail end there of that USA chant out at JBLE.
Yeah.
Paul shared this with me. I hope I can share this, Paul. Otherwise, you can punch me in the mouth the next time. He actually carried the coin with him that he got.
That's what Felice did too.
Yeah. He carried the coin with him that was given to us. Where we delivered the pizzas to the pilots and the people that work, on the flight line or whatever.
The dragon coin.
Remember the dragon coin? Yeah. He actually had that. Yeah. So that was cool to that Paul, I guess, carried that JBLE spirit with him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that
to his fight.
And that night too, it was cool to see like Misha and Colby and Brian, everybody that was on that trip were all part of a group text that kind of got reignited when Paul got his victory. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so great. Yeah, that was very cool, Paul, that you've kept that connection.
Yeah, it was one of those things that they even said that to me. They're like, since it was the Dragons and I'm the Irish Dragon, they're like, keep this one with me. They gave me an extra one for my daughter to have around. And I have all my coins here at the house, but that one being the Irish Dragon connection, I was like, obviously I'm going to bring that one. And I did. I had it on all my stuff when I was all week, and I had it the whole camp really because I brought it with me to Milwaukee so that I could bring it with me to Detroit. And then I made sure I had that in my bag, and I had my note that I always write to myself. And yeah, and I remember thinking when they said that most of the people that have come through the base there when they went on to fight, I mean we've done well.
Yeah,
statistically, it's been pretty good since. Especially the fight after, you were there. Like, look, Colby won, I won, and Felice, she was there before she won.
Yeah.
Obviously, Misha doesn't fight anymore, so.
Yeah.
Just make sure you bring that coin to Vegas because we coin check out here too, right?
Yeah.
Don't mess around.
Hey, man, I'll have one with me next if I'm ever around you guys, or I'll be buying some drinks, that's for sure.
We got 30 seconds left, and then it'll be a full half hour. Sorry, 15 as a fighter, 15 as a commentator. You did it to yourself. But just quick, this comes from Dan in Oregon. If 165 opened up, would you go up? Yes or no? Or are you good at 55 for now?
Yeah, I would consider it strongly. The last three cuts have been good, but that doesn't mean they're easy, and everybody gets that confused. I diet really, really, really hard to get within the realm of being able to do the water cut to get to 155. I'm already 192 pounds right now. And I fought, last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago. So I'm a big boy, man. And I feel like instead of going to 70, if 65 opened up, I'd be able to do some short notice fights at that weight class as well. But, I would definitely still be able to fight at 155.
There you have it, folks. That's Paul Felder, one of the best people in the business. Paul, enjoy time off with your family, your daughter. Give her a big old hug from the Junkie Radio guys. I know you sacrifice a lot, to put food on the table and to do what you do. So hopefully you and her get to hang out a lot here during the holidays. Happy holidays to you, and I guess we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Paul. Take care.
Easy, Paul.
See you.
All right, guys. Bye.
All right, folks. That's Paul Felder. Great guy, man. Solid guy. And what a 1-2 punch for him to win his fight and then immediately knock it out of the park as a commentator. Think about how long it took to get Cruz and DC in there, and something clicked with those guys that they saw in Felder that even though he's an active member, not a champion or former champion, still they're liking the work, and he's there, and he says he's got a few gigs lined up in 2018, so couldn't be happy for the guy. Let's take a break. We got to do this. We haven't done one yet in this first hour. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close, folks. We'll be right back.
They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Help SiriusXM in the fight to end hunger. Support Why Hunger's annual Hungerthon donation drive. Go to SiriusXM.com/Hungerthon and see items you can bid on now through December 13th. Like guest DJ on SiriusXM's Elvis Radio at Graceland, plus a 2-night stay at the Graceland Guest House. Or make a donation and receive a gift like a John Lennon Imagine scarf and more. Go to SiriusXM.com/Hungerthon for more details today. Danny is going to inform us in the history of our sport what went down today, December 11th. Today, Danny. Today.
Today. Well, 2 years ago today.
All
Not
right.
really today. December 11th, 2015. Can you guys guess anything important?
December 11th, 2015.
It was.
wow.
Can I give you? You want me to give you the weight class?
Nate Diaz and Michael Johnson?
No. Do you want me to give you the division?
Yeah.
Featherweight.
Oh, Connor knocked out Jose Aldo? I know it was in December.
No.
We don't know, eh?
Frankie and Edgar displays his finishing ability in the featherweight division
Against
when he knocks
Matt
out
Veach?
Chad
Chad
Mendes.
Mendes. Oh, that was
day
here.
before.
And remember, all of us thought, oh, they're putting these two together, so
Yeah.
Connor won't have to fight either guy. That gets rid of Chad, and then Edgar later on should have really been the guy.
We thought he was all but done.
But yeah, that was a big
Wow.
fight. But the reason I said Matt Veach, because the other day we said who's Edgar lost to, and it was Benson.
Yep.
It was Aldo, and it was Maynard. But one guy that gave him a tough fight once and almost ruined his little rise to superstardom was a guy named Matt Veach.
Yeah.
Who was just suplexing his ass. And it was a finale here in Vegas.
That's Mark's guy, right? Mark from
Beecher?
Colorado.
Oh, no.
No. I know he's talking about Mark Fiore.
Yeah, wasn't that his guy?
They may have been, yeah.
Sounds familiar.
All right. Let's talk. Good job, Danny. Follow our friends from MMA History Today on Twitter at MMA History Today. Marco in Waco. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, Marco from Waco. ¿Qué pasa, Atos?
Not much, man.
Hey, you know the story of those little coins? Like, what are you supposed to do, like in the military?
Mm-hmm.
Like on the unit, if a whole bunch of veterans get together with their coins, you have to flash the coin. Whoever flashes last or don't have it with them, have to buy rounds for everybody else.
Ooh,
So,
I knew if you don't have it with you, you buy. I didn't know if you were last, you buy.
If everybody
So
has
it's gotta
it.
be.
Yeah, exactly. If everybody has it, you flash it last, you buy. If you don't have it, you buy.
Well, I heard something different. I heard that if I pull it out and Dan and George don't have it, then yeah, they have to pay for the drinks. But if they do have it, I have to pay for the drinks for calling them out.
Calling you?
Yeah, that's what they told me.
Oh, wow.
So be careful if you're going to pull it out, in other words.
Well, that's what a general told us, Marco. How about the people that told you what the rules are?
Well, again, he's not wrong. But, you know, that was the rule that we got in my unit. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Hey, I'm going to talk about the fights this weekend because I went on for my picks last week. So I want to talk about Lomachenko. Because Lomachenko, no, what a fight, dude. He made him quick on the stool. Wow, I impressed that guy, man.
Yeah.
And,
Rigondeaux looked good for a few rounds. I thought maybe he might have that shot of landing a big left.
But
He was
hands mixed up.
He was throwing it hard. What's that?
Then he got his hands mixed up.
What do you mean?
The hand that he said was the cause of him stopping. Then later on, it switched to the other hand.
Did it?
It's kind of weird.
No, I don't know. We were watching it from a distance with no volume because a lot of stuff was going on. But I remember him throwing a couple, hard, wild ones, and I thought, well, I could see where that could, trouble Lomachenko if it were to land. But I had a feeling that it was just going to be, what it was. Not necessarily somebody quitting, but probably a decision or a dominant performance by Lomachenko.
Yeah, when it comes to Lomachenko, Dana White wants to start super boxing. A guy like that, he should try to steal in some way, somehow, because he can build around that. He can make him a cornerstone of his new boxing enterprise. But I was super impressed with the dude, man. I mean, I honestly, the first time I ever watched him fight, I've been hearing about the guys forever. This is the very first fight I ever watched. And I like, okay, I see what people are talking about him now.
Yeah.
That's all I have for today, guys. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
See you, buddy. Shout out to Martin Stabilo, who completed his a marathon. Listener of the show. All 26.3 miles? 2 miles? What is it? 26.2?
Dang, Martin.
Yeah, said the most he had ever run was 8 miles, like that. You know, I guess in competition.
Who's he?
But he trained and he went 26.2 miles. So it's off his bucket list, and it was in Hawaii is where he ran it. So shout out to Martin Stabilo.
Shoots and shouts to Martin, man. Good job, brother.
Dan in Oregon, you're up next. What's up, Dan?
What up? Yo, in memory, I'm going to add to what Danny was going on with what happened in MMA history. Yesterday, 1 year ago, UFC 206, the only card that was ever replayed on TV for free, did excellent ratings. We also got Doo Hoo Choi, the Korean Superboy, versus Cub Swanson, basically fight of the year. That was an amazing day, so let's not forget about that. And we got Doo Hoo Choi coming up early next year, man.
Who's he got?
I want to talk about what we got going on in Fresno, though, man.
Hey, who's Choi? Who's Choi got next year, though? Do you guys know?
I'll look it up now if Dan doesn't have it.
Go
ahead, Dan.
Jeremy Stevens.
Should be a
yeah,
good
that's
one.
right. Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
we're down. So what happened in Fresno? Did you like or dislike?
Fresno, man, that's a 16,000 people capacity stadium that we barely shoved 7,000 into. Like, this was only, I think, the third time they've ever been to, like, a college campus. We go to the University of Texas in Austin, George Mason University out over in Virginia, in, like, the Patriot Center, and they just now did Fresno for the first time. That is abysmal to me, man. Like, what is the UFC doing? Let's give away tickets to college kids if we want to get that young demographic. You know how many professional or college athletes are not going to make it into the pros, and we want all of these. We want to recruit kids and shit, man. People that do a sport, they kind of stumble in MMA and end up getting into UFC. Like, we can have more of that going on. And if $50 is too much for these areas, to convince someone to go in there for a free on Fox Sports 1 card. You want me to go to it? You want me to pay $50? They don't want to do it, man. Charge $20. They'll still buy nachos and all this nonsense.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to see packed arenas on the TV that I watch. And we got St. Louis coming up soon. Why aren't we talking about where's Woodley? Where's Woodley? Does Woodley really want to get 200,000 pay-per-view buys again, or do we want to get 2 million people watching him on Fox Sports 1? 22,000 people stadium, man. What's going on here? What do you guys think of this? Back to you.
All right. Well, I have always been a big fan of going to the college campus, and if you have to do a Twitter giveaway or whatever, but just get them in there, that's that demographic. How you can take it further is maybe do something like a college game day, you know, get people out there early, bring your big stars, and get people pumped up throughout the day.
Arizona State, I think the Florida campuses.
There's some campuses where it's like, I mean, 50 to 100,000. You make a big deal out of it, they'll come out and make a big deal as well. But for some reason, I don't know why it's never really taken off. I'd like to ask Scott how they did at Penn State. You know, come back with alumni. That was something else you can always do as well. All right, folks, you're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, we'll be talking to Glover Teixeira, also fighting on the same fight card as Ricardo Lamas, UFC on Fox 26 this Saturday, Winnipeg, Canada. We'll be right back.
Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
Folks, remember, when the fights are on Big Fox, not Fox Sports 1 or 2, Big Fox, they're going to start a little earlier. So here's the timeline for this Saturday. Prelims start on UFC Fight Pass at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. The prelims then move over to Fox Sports 1, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And then the main card on Big Fox. That's Channel 11 if you live in Southern California. It's Channel 5 if you live in Las Vegas. And if you don't live in either of those two cities, you got to look up your local listings. But it's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I don't want to hear, hey, man, I went on at 7 or 8 p.m. Pacific. The fights were over. Well, I'll try and remind you every day this week, but they start off basically a couple hours earlier. Now, our next guest is basically, we know exactly what time he's fighting. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time versus Misha Cirkunov because they're starting off. So they're not like people that are, in the second, third, or fourth position where you don't know when the fight's, if it's going to go 15 minutes or not. So he'll have his proper warm-up, and him and Misha are going to go out there and compete. This 205 division is going to be hopefully a comeback season for a comeback year for this division, because this division is not as deep as lightweight, welterweight, featherweight. It's about 30 fighters, 40 fighters deep. So right away you can have a shot at the champion if you put together a good run, and beating Misha Cirkunov will go a long ways for Glover Teixeira to fight the winner of Daniel Cormier and Volkan Ozdemir. Joining us now on the hotline is Glover Teixeira. What's up, Glover? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Good, man. Great to have you back on the show. You're on with George, Goes, and Dan here on MMA Junkie Radio. It's a pleasure to have you on. I'm going to give some people some fun facts about you. You want to hear them?
Yes.
All right, here's some fun facts about Glover Teixeira. He once finished a fight in 5 seconds. It was at PFC. Chuck Liddell was in his corner, and he was fighting a guy named George Oliveira, who I think had a shoot box lineage at the time. Went out there, and if you ever find that video, watch how crazy Chuck Liddell goes, dude. He was so happy for his teammate. But, yeah, he finished him in 5 seconds. Another stat is he's finished 22 of 26 fights, 15 KOs, 7 submissions. So he, that's bordering on 85%, I believe, finishing ratio. And then the last stat is, you guys remember when Sokoudjou went out there and beat Arona?
Yeah.
And
uppercut.
And Little Nog, and you kept saying he was like a Brazilian killer. What people fail to realize is Glover beat him before he even did that in the WEC. So I was like, well, I wouldn't call him a Brazilian killer. He just lost to a Brazilian. He did beat 2 credible Brazilians in Little Nog and Arona, but then he wound up losing to Machida in the next fight. So, he kind of went 2-on-2 on his run. I'm not trying to hate on Sokoudjou, but I just had remembered he was going in off a loss to Glover. But anyway, little history lesson for some of the young listeners that tune into the sport. But, hey, Glover, how would you categorize your overall run in mixed martial arts? You obviously had a lot of big days before the UFC, and you've had some great days in the UFC. It's like you had 2 different careers.
Yeah, man. I have a good run in UFC in my career. I just you have ups and downs, and you just gotta get back to the gym and fix them. And fix the mistakes that you made. But I can't complain, man. I'm healthy. I never had a big injury. I mean, the last fight was the only time I ever, have a broken bone in my entire career. It was on my last fight. I broke my hand. I had a few bruises on my knuckles before, but nothing, that I had to break my hand or anything like that. So, I can't complain,
Yeah. And what's funny is, obviously you know this. On social media, fans can be very, very cruel. They can be haters. And somebody told me, he goes, "Oh, you're having Glover on?" He goes, "Man, he's always come up short in the big fights." And I'm like, "Are you sure that's a fair statement?" Because he lost his title fight versus Jones, and the Johnson fight or whatever. But dude, he still beat Rashad Evans former champion, Ovin St. Preux, who's on a great roll, Ryan Bader, who's the champion over at Bellator, Quinton Jackson, who's a former champion in both Pride and the UFC. So I would politely disagree. You know, I mean, it's just a fucking tough division, man. There's a lot of killers that you fought in your career.
Yeah, you know, it's a tough division, man. You know, like I say the same thing because every time I'm in the door to fight for the title, you know, I fought Anthony Johnson. I got a bad luck there, and this fight now with Gustafsson was to fight a contender, you know, for the title, and I lost it again. You know, I just gotta have to adjust the game, man, adjust the situations. You know, I don't know what's going on. I know that I'm always training hard and I'm always looking to finish fights, and maybe I'm too anxious. You know, like I gotta slow down a little bit. I gotta take my time. That's what I've been working on my footwork a lot more now for this fight. You know, footworking and timing, because I think that's very important for the fight, especially after you've been in the game for a while. You know, they start capitalize with your game. You know, like before, you know, I just used to come down and go forward and try to knock everybody out. But it's time to study the game a little more.
Do you feel like your career, when you look back on it, well, are you proud of it the way it is, or does it hinge on whether you ever fight for a UFC title? Or excuse me, win the UFC title is what I meant to say.
Yeah, man. I think I can't complain. Like I say, I'm not complaining. I love the way I'm living my life right now. You know, I love the way things going. You know, I can't change the past, so I'm gonna try to change the future. You know, I'm gonna try to make this happen. I still have a lot of fights on me. I still feel in love with the sport. I love to train. You know, I feel great in training. I'm in very good shape right now, and I'm just learning, and you know, I'm just enjoying myself as a fighter, and yeah, I wanted to become a champion. I'm right there, and number 3 in the world, and I need to beat Serganov and get to the fight, to the title radar again.
Huge fight in the 205 division, folks, this weekend on Saturday, UFC on Fox 26. Misha Serkinov versus Glover Teixeira, and don't forget, 1 month later, Daniel Cormier defends against Volkan Ozdemir. So the timeline lines up perfect for possibly the winner of Teixeira and Serkinov to be fighting the winner of Cormier versus Ozdemir. All right, let me just do a soft ending real quick for the SiriusXM audience. We got a couple more questions for our guests. Glover Teixeira, who fights on Saturday on Big Fox, 8 p.m. Eastern start time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Check it out. Robbie Lawler and Rafael Dos Anjos in the main event. Just give us 10 seconds, and we'll continue on here with a little bit of overtime with Glover Teixeira.
Down the drain, fever, Las Vegas turning day into nighttime, turning night into daytime. If you see it once, you'll never be the same again. I'm gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very life.
You guys are clear for overtime.
All right, Glover, just a couple more questions, and we really appreciate your time. Goes, what do you have for Glover?
Glover, now you've been in situations before where you're the guy fighting at home, and and there are a lot of more responsibilities that come along with that. The roles are kind of switched here now. Can you talk a little bit about any pressures that come along with fighting at home?
No, it's no pressure, man. You know, I'm kind of like Chuck a little bit. The way I used to get so nervous in Chuck's fight, right? And Chuck used to be always laughing and calm and like never had any pressure with him. So I was thinking myself, like, hey, man, I don't know if I ever fight in UFC and if I'm gonna get this nervous, it's gonna be sucks. But you know, my first fight in UFC, I had a great time. I feel home. You know, I was fighting in Las Vegas. It was my dream to fight in Vegas. And after that, I never really felt nervous after any fight or before any fight. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I don't have that pressure on me. The pressure is like, I train well, I did my best in the gym, and I'm going over there, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do what I do best and trying to knock somebody out. I don't have this thing to fight. Of course, fighting at home is a good thing to, the fans and the people by your side, and it's sometimes closer. I love that fight I had in Brooklyn because I drove there, so it was cool, but I don't have that much pressure for me.
George has mentioned that you have fought on Big Fox before, and one thing that we always say is the guys that fight on Big Fox repeatedly, it's usually because they have a fan-friendly style. People like to see them fight. Can you talk a little bit about that confidence that the UFC has had in you throughout the years to deliver on these type of cards?
Yes, I think the way I fight, I mean, look at my fights, like you say, it's 22 finish and 26 wins, so, and even in my losses, I'm going after to win, I'm going after the guy, even my last fight, I think, if I step back a little bit and study the game a little bit, it would be better maybe for me, but I was just pushing forward and I wanted to finish the fight, so I think that's why they know I'm going to bring up the fight. They know I'm going to step in and just going to go after to get a knockout or submission. So I guess maybe that's why.
Glover, you spoke earlier on improving your footwork. Is that just for your personal improvement, or does this have to do with your opponent, Misha Serkinov, who likes to pressure and come forward?
Overall, I need to work on my footwork, and I need to work on my footwork a little more, bouncing in and out, and work my timing, and definitely it's going to work for this fight. He's a southpaw, so I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be. We see what happens, man. I'm very excited to go over there and bring. I still going to be that Glover, man. Still gonna be that guy that that come after with a Mike Tyson style to finish a fight. But I just gotta take my time a little more. I've been working a lot on my timing, the right time to throw the combinations.
Awesome, Glover. I guess one last thing. I guess a quick breakdown of your opponent, maybe even a prediction on how you're going to be approaching the fight come Saturday.
Misha is a very tough opponent. See by his fight, he's well-rounded, he's good jiu-jitsu, he's good striking, but I think I'm better overall, man. I think I'm better in every aspect, better than him, and I'm going to go for knockout. Misha, I like the guy. I hate to fight the guy, but this is the business, and I'm going to go to knock him out.
That's what he does. He breaks faces. When he beat Jorge Oliveira, the forums were saying, "Man, he broke his face," and the nickname tried to catch on a little bit. Face breaker. I don't know if you ever knew that, Glover, but a lot of people wanted to give you that nickname, face breaker, at the time, and I don't know if it caught on or not or what happened, but he breaks faces. They said.
Yeah. George Oliveira was funny because we saw one of his fights, and he threw a lot of leg kick, and we saw John Hackham say, he threw a leg kick, he just overhand right away. So it was the first time he threw. I run to his corner, and he threw the leg kick, and I threw overhand right in the perfect timing, and a 5-second KO.
Yeah, Chuck was proud, man. He leaped over those ropes. I think it was a rope. And he goes nuts, but that's what Liddell used to do. Remember the big overhand, right? So they definitely perfected that one. All right, Glover, thank you very much. I know you got traveling to do and packing to do, but thanks for squeezing us in. We appreciate it. Cannot wait to see the fight on Saturday. I hope it's a great one for you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys having me here.
All right, take care, Glover. We'll see you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Folks, you can follow Glover on Twitter at Glover Teixeira, just like his name, GloverTeixeira. And I want to thank all of our guests for today, including Paul Felder, Glover Teixeira, and early on we also had Ricardo Lamas. Lamas and Teixeira fight on Saturday at UFC on Fox 26 on Big Fox. We'll keep telling you about that all week long. And Paul Felder coming off not only a win, but a great performance behind the mic as he was a broadcaster for UFC Fresno. We didn't really get to all the results from this past week, but we'll do that tomorrow. There was a one championship card. There was an Invicta card. Maya, the champion there at flyweight, she defended. Carvalho defended his belt. Rafael, Carvalho defended his belt. And Bellator in Italy, he defeated Alessio Sacra. Quick finish there as well. And LFA had a fight card as well. I believe Damon Jackson got the win. Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys.
And then this weekend, Chico Camus fights.
If it happened with enough time for you guys to cover it on Friday, but St. Pierre.
St. Pierre, you mean the fight or the vacating? Yeah, no, we talked about that for a while, and we had a lot of feelings about it. Look, should the UFC have gotten a whiff of this earlier that it could happen? Probably. Does it matter to them? I mean, they banked, 50-60 million from that before their cut, with pay-per-view companies. It doesn't sound like he's retiring yet, so there's still an opportunity to make more money. So, Dana White did an interview about this. He isn't exactly shedding tears, and I don't think he's as pissed as he implied that he would be. And again, maybe since then, he's been reminded of many times where he's promised the fighter a shot and it didn't go that way. So it just, you win some, you lose some. And for those of you that have been bugging me, a quick roundup. The NFL, the Bills took care of the Colts 13-7. The Cowboys defeated the Giants 30-10. The Lions defeated the Buccaneers 24-21. Chiefs won 26-15 over the lowly Raiders. San Francisco 49ers reminded Houston that they got a problem. They beat them 26-16. Green Bay Packers defeated the Cleveland Browns, or the Clowns as they've been playing as of late, 0-13. What is that? 27-21 was the score there in overtime. The Chicago Bears lit up the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals choked that game away, man, against Pittsburgh a week ago. They're still not over it. The Carolina Panthers fought off the Vikings. Vikings had actually even the score. They were down by 10. Next thing you know, it's 24-24, but Cam Newton drove them back. They won 31-21. The Chargers defeated the Redskins. I think that season's over there. Chargers, after a horrific start, they're playing well. Denver Broncos blanked the Jets. They never even got off the ground.
The Browns.
Sorry, the Broncos blanked the Jets. They never even got off the ground. That's what I meant to say. They're all jammed up over there in New York. The Arizona Cardinals defeated the Tennessee Titans 12-7. The Philadelphia Eagles, one of the most exciting games of the season, defeated the LA Rams. It was a shootout, but they lost their quarterback for the season, Carson Wentz. He's out, man. That sucks. That opens things up in the NFC, that's for sure. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Seattle Seahawks, it got ugly, man. They were throwing fists, pushing each other. People got disqualified. Some really, really aggressive defensive players out there, man. They were hitting each other hard. One of the most physical games out there. The Steelers beat the Ravens. The Ravens had a chance at the very end, and they could not pull through, but that was a very entertaining game. Hopefully you didn't have the under there. It was 39-38. For those of you asking, no, Modern Day High School, the #1 team in the nation, did not play last week, but they do play this week in the state final against Concord de La Salle. Let's see if they can keep that #1 spot. All right, folks, for Goes and Dan and Danny, I'm George. Have a nice weekend. Go out there and be champions.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when.